right, here we are. We're in the Bill. We're back at the Bill DeMott Experience. This is going to be a great episode for me because we've my guests this week are two people that I hold in high regard in wrestling and as people. We spent the weekend together in Virginia, and we aired an episode called Training Camp on the Bill DeMott Experience on my YouTube channel. And Mickie James and Nick Aldis are with me. Come on in, guys. You there?
Hey, I will.
There they are. And I got to tell you, I had so much fun and the feedback from the episode, but I had so much fun, one, just hanging out with you guys, because Nick, that was the first time you and I actually have been together and got to know each other. And Mickie, you and I have known each other for years, but give me your take on things, and we'll talk about what we did, but how are you guys doing? Give me your take on what you thought about the show.
Oh, I thought it was great. I thought it really captured what the essence of that whole camp was, and I felt the students took so much away from it. And, honestly, we didn't know what to expect from the first, superstar seminars. And that's why, we thought to do it with the Bill DeMott Experience. And I think that the response it got, especially after seeing the video come out, it was pretty positive, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I was a little nervous because, I'm wrestling camps, that's my thing, and I love being around the cats like that. But this was the first one for Superstar Seminars. One, I was honored, and then two, I was so nervous. I think the three of us must have talked via email and text message about 2 million times, it seemed like, probably just because I was freaking out. But when we got there, everything just fell into place. So, tell me more about Superstar Seminars. What are you guys doing with that? What's the object here?
Well, it's funny, actually. we were nervous too. Obviously we have quite a few mutual friends. So, guys who you had trained at NXT and stuff like that. So I had a bit of an idea of what to expect. But it's always a weird thing when you meet someone that you hold in high esteem in the business. I think when we talked about Superstar Seminars, it was one of those things where a lot of the guys, if you've had any sort of TV exposure, you get booked, and one of the things they often have you do is to do like a guest seminar at their local wrestling school and stuff like that. And so we talked about the idea of saying, the thing is with the seminars, it's normally like a few hours. You might get to nitpick like one person and help them out with one or two little things and maybe help them on their way. But you and I both know, and anyone who's had some decent training in wrestling, that an intensive camp is normally the best way to make serious progress. And we said, that I can speak from my own experience. When I was hired by TNA, I was so green and I didn't really know what I was doing. I had a couple of things going for me and was just sort of thrown in at the deep end. And it was only because I was able to sort of work with loads and loads of good talent who were all there at that time, learned sort of through osmosis how to get good. And we said, learn so much quicker by being around good people than you do from just reps. And we said, how can we do something where we create an environment where they get to work with not only, guys who are in the business now and sort of know what the standard is, but also with an authority, like someone in wrestling and someone who really gets it and know not only how to train guys, but also like what WWE is looking for or anywhere else of that nature. Not anywhere of this nature as WWE, but you know what I'm saying. And somebody said, let's create a situation where we're always there, obviously, and then we'll have like a guest kind of authority, who we defer, they kind of run it, we assist. Like that seems to be like a good model. And we were just tossing names around, right? And then it was one of those things that we just went, build them up, horrible.
Yeah. I thought too, seminar, because a lot of times I remember doing a lot of seminars when I was first coming through, and you get stuck in with a lot of people who it could have been their first time even stepping in the ring.
Right.
So it was more difficult to kind of get past that. So we did kind of where you had to have at least a year's experience of working through the ring. So that way it was a bit more advanced, It was more of the fine tuning those elements that you're not going to get just, on your own until somebody tells you, like I felt like that was a lot of the benefit of being at OVW. It was that fine tuning on promos, your timing and execution on things. So, and to learn from people who've been there and who've even set the standard for that whole thing is so valuable. It was just,
it's hard to find guys who not only are good, but are also articulating how to be good.
It's
have made such a name for themselves as trainers, because it's like there are a lot of guys who are good hands and understand the mechanics of the business and how to have a good match, how to construct a good match. But unless you know how to articulate it to someone who doesn't know that stuff yet, that's you can't necessarily be a good trainer. But I learned as much as the guys did.
That's what I said in the episode. I learned so much from those, I say kids, because I'm gray and old now, but watching you guys. And the thing for me, Nick, that really stuck out is you say, you talk about how you were thrown into the deep end, but you both of you went to GXW, and your schedules are crazy, both individually, together, when you're traveling, everything, and you find the time to go there. And the thing that really grabbed me when I left, and I talked about it the whole way home, was you guys are all in. You're not just, and this is not me just saying this because, we're talking now. I've said this to a number of people. You can see it. And that's what made me, by day 2, that's what made me want to do whatever it was, especially for those kids and for you guys. And I think you have the groundwork to wherever you take it next. You have it down, because you guys are awesome with those kids. And that's the trick, right? You should want to have to learn from those kids as much as they're trying to learn from you. And that's what I got away from it. But watching you guys and knowing how much time, and we talked about how much time you spend there on your days off, whenever they are anymore, just made it that much, so much more worthwhile, that I was blown away by the whole thing. So the fact that we got to use it for an episode was just the gravy. And I don't think I did not smile the whole way home and for like the next 3 days, because to me, that was back to basics. Let's talk wrestling. And I love the talks that you guys had and we had with them so much as the physical. Everybody should take advantage of Superstar seminars. Everybody. Give me real quick before we go, what is the Twitter? Give me your Twitter, because we have a lot of fans on iTunes who don't see this video. So I want them to know where they can reach out to that.
Well, mine is at Mickie James. Pretty simple.
Very easy.
Okay.
But my Twitter is at Magnus Official, and then on Instagram it's my own name, at Nick Aldis. I link together, so if you find one, you'll find the other.
Yeah, it was just to take the time. Like I'm a big fan of people who take time for wrestling. I know it's sports entertainment. I know we talked about it, but just and I hope it did it as much justice in the end result as it did for the 2 days. But I was fascinated by both of you and your delivery, because Mickie, you and I know each other for a bunch of years now, and I know how you handle talent and other people and the respect you have. But to watch Nick, that's what grabbed me. I came into your home in Richmond, and I thought that was great. And then to watch you guys deal with the talent, and the fact that you were, and Nick, you just said you were there again. So your schedule, you just came back. So let's talk about what you guys are doing now, because I could talk about what we did all, forever. So catch everybody up on what's going on now and what you guys got happening.
Oh gosh, so busy, because Donovan just had his first birthday.
Unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. Like it's just.
Yeah. So, I have my music bookings. I have wrestling. Nick has wrestling. We both have GFW. We both,
basically, anytime that I'm not wrestling, I've just done 2 trips to Europe in the last 6 weeks, and then I go again to Germany for Tiny St. Clair in a couple of weeks. And then we have we're I mean, it's no secret at this point. We are actually booking and sort of promoting the first UK shows for Global Force. You know, that was one of the cool things about going on with Jeff, was that he sort of afforded me the opportunity to kind of be somewhat of the UK guy as far as you know, as far as like developing the live events and you know, using sort of some of my established relationships with the media and different contacts and venues and stuff, so that we could very quickly expand, because it's such a young company, like, you know, and he's working every hour of the day with Sully trying to put the TV show together that we're filming in Vegas, which is essentially just a glorified pilot season, really, but it's what TV networks need these days in order to get on board with something, is they want to see the entire product. So, you know, he's really rolling the dice. So it was one of those things where I'm working with a great
Wait a minute. I'm all enthralled in this conversation, and you just held up a Dallas Cowboys cup.
She can't help herself.
That is so. Oh my gosh.
What are you, Giant?
Oh, one of my Giants fans. I'm born and raised in Giants everywhere. My alligator behind me has a Giants hat on it. It's I'm a huge. So let's catch everybody up, because a lot of people, when you say Jeff, we're talking about Jeff Jarrett and Global Force Wrestling.
Yeah.
So how did that come about for you guys? Because I know you're excited about it. You and I were talking about the upcoming UK tour and things you have going on. So how did that come about with you and Jeff?
Well, Jeff and I have a, you know, very long sort of story relationship anyway. And obviously most people would know that he founded TNA and started it back in 2002. And TNA was obviously where I hung my hat for a lot of years. And, you know, the majority of my time there, while Dixie was very, very good to me, and some of the various other people that ran the company at different times, you know, were good to me. Jeff Jarrett was really the person who I always felt like got it and was the first guy to sort of take me and go like, here's a chance, here's an opportunity. So I basically decided I had sort of done everything I could do at TNA and decided to move on. And then it just coincided with Jeff basically getting Global Force off the ground, because he decided more or less, you know, he decided the same thing. It was, I want to do it all over again. And you talk about passion for the business.
Yeah.
Start a company in 2002 and, you know, watch it grow and develop into what it was and you know, to what it is today, and then to basically walk away for whatever reason and in 2014 do it all over again.
Yeah, say you know what, I want to do that again.
Yeah, like
that just kind of makes him a little bit nuts, but
completely.
But for everybody who's not in this business, they go, man, he's nuts. But for the people that are in this business, you go, you know, thank goodness.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, in between all of my free time when I'm not wrestling or doing something of that nature is basically taken up with, at the moment, you know, trying to do everything I can to make the UK live events as successful as I can and to promote my book.
So you go from being thrown in the deep end to just throwing yourself in the deep end now, because now you're booking towns and you're going to be the front man. And I look at you and go, you're hanging around with some nutty people and it's rubbing off on you.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, it's at this point, apart from, I mean, I'm a big, you and I are both, you referenced it a lot in the camp. I've always been a big believer of the 10,000 hours Gladwell theory as well. And I said, you know, the two things that I've really, at this point in my life at 28, the only two things that I've dedicated my 10,000 hours to are pro wrestling and to, you know, fitness and nutrition. So it makes sense to me that if I'm going to try and make a living from, you know, it needs to be from those two things. So that's why I have wrestling, and then in the meantime, trying to promote the book and make it successful.
Well, let's talk. Now I'm going to leave Mickie on the back burner because she brought up that Dallas Cup. I'm just half hot. I'm trying to look. I don't even my Giants gear or anything. I think you're in cahoots with that other girl who's on my show, Paula. I firmly believe she's telling everybody on Facebook to set me up. But so let's talk before we get to Mickie and the music, and because you're Mickie, I know your schedule is just as cattywampus as Nick's. Nick, talk about the book. This the time because you had told me about it. That's it. Plug it, man.
Yeah. The Superstar Body. It's available now. You can get it through Bill's Amazon link.
There it is. Amazon. I told you we love you. Hit the button. Shop for Nick's book.
Hit the button and find the Superstar Body. It's available. We had some very good news. Our US distributor put in a very good order, so it's all there. It's on pre-order now for November. As far as a physical copy is concerned, in the United States, it's available all over the world. Published in the UK, but it's available for download right now on all the major e-readers, Kindle, Nook. It's available through all the major retailers, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Book Depository, all of those kinds of things. It's yes, it's a fitness book. It's not necessarily a bodybuilding book, but there is a lot of traditional kind of golden age bodybuilding kind of rhetoric. Because I was a big Arnold fan, and that whole sort of era of the sort of what is referred to now as like physical culture. And the thing to me that is more the unique thing of the book for me is that I always said, I picked up muscle books and magazines and all that stuff from about the age of 12. I bought a little home weight set because I wanted to be a pro wrestler. I wanted to be like The Rock and Triple H and all these guys who I was watching on TV. And I at the same time formulated this idea that I wanted to be this physically, impressive sort of body because I was skinny and I wasn't, I was puny and I wasn't really, didn't have a very positive sort of body image.
That's changed. Just for the reference, everybody on iTunes, he's not skinny and scrawny. Check it out.
Shit, that I have my days, but the thing for me that I found was that, and I learned this more from when I was doing Gladiators, back in 2008 before I started with TNA. Was that, when I was cast on that show, I was the youngest guy on that show. I was 21, and I was surrounded by all these men, who were like Olympians and Marines and, football players and all these kind of like brilliant athletes. And I basically I was able to just get cast more on personality. But when I was around those guys, I picked up so much as far as like fitness and nutrition and diet and all that stuff. And I realized that you can read and read and read as much as you want, but you develop stuff so much quicker when it comes to like bouncing ideas around with other great people. So what I tried to do with the book was give people an idea of like, look, here's the 411, here's the skinny. I'm not going to bog you down with all this science and
right
theory kind of bump. It's more about like, hey, here's what works for me. Here's what works for Kurt Angle. Here's what works for David McIntosh, who's a fitness model and a former Marine. Here's what works for, here's what this trainer who trains like NFL players and NBA players and NCAA stars, here's what he tells people, and here's what Mickie, hey girls, this is what Mickie does. This is what Brooke Adams does. You want to know how she, how she has that body? Like, it's not by accident, so it's obviously the majority of it is me, but I've had so many great guest contributors that just gave such a unique spin to the books that I don't think I've ever seen in any other book. I mean, I'm sure there are, but I've never seen a book that had that many kind of different authorities on, from different sort of walks of life, but all to the same goal. And the Superstar Body was because I said, look, I don't really care I don't care if you want to be big, small, ripped, huge, whatever it may be. I want you to feel like a superstar, like whatever your superstar body is, whether you want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or whether you want to look like Pink or whether you want to look like Bradley Cooper, or, whatever it may be. Like, I'm going to give you the tools and the sort of the real knowledge, not the sort of commercially influenced knowledge that you get in magazines and stuff. We're trying to sort of lead you to buy something. It's just, this is the brass tacks. You know what I mean? This is what you need to know. So I can give you all the tools then to help you develop whatever body you want to develop.
Now,
it's kind of I
didn't mean to cut you off, with CrossFit and everything else that's big. Is your book geared to, because you're full-time into wrestling and sports entertainment, is your book geared to those young cats? Would you suggest, like I would want to say to young cats, because they ask me, I'm a weights guy. I do I'm a weights guy. I can lift. I'm not smart, but I lift heavy things. That's always been my my thing. But to the young cats that are coming up who need to be durable and flexible and all these things, is that where you'd go with them?
I've tried my best to cover it to be as, without being too vague. I've also tried to make it as broad spectrum as possible, as far as, here's some traditional bodybuilding. Here's how, if you want mass, here's how you get that mass. If you want this kind of stuff, and I'm not a huge authority on CrossFit. I've done I've done elements of it, but I have had feedback from some guys who have bought the book, who are big CrossFit guys, who have said, "Oh, hey, it was still really helpful because of some of the diet techniques. There's things like carb backloading and carb cycling and all these kind of things in there." And
so can Frank, who sits in the office, is this book just as helpful to that guy as it is to a gym guy?
Absolutely. I think so, because the problem is that there's so much misinformation out there, and there's a lot of information that's actually very, that's really comes with an agenda, especially when it comes to diet. It's so hard to trust what you read in magazines and stuff like that now, when it comes to, well, first of all, it's all very contradictory. One month it'll be like, don't touch carbs, whatever you do. And then the next month it'll be like, hey, why aren't you touching carbs? Like, you're not going to get the workouts right, and so for me, it was like, there are different techniques, that none of them are 100% right. They're all right in their own way. And this is like, but here's the, like, I tried to give people like a kind of straightforward approach to like what the whole issue is with carbs. Like, just as an example, it's like, most people are completely unaware of what the implication of carbs are, which is your insulin, which is all to do with your insulin and your insulin sensitivity or resistance, and it sounds very like over scientific and kind of difficult to digest. But like, what I've done in the book is kind of made it basically say, like, this is the issue. You know what I mean? Is that you want to be in a situation where you have insulin sensitivity, so that then when you train, then you take in those carbs afterwards, you can enjoy that. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Because you've created a situation where you're not, it's not going to turn to a waste product, and it's just, unfortunately, most people have a mindset that's kind of developed through years and years of being told like stuff that's only kind of partially true, or true to an extent of helping somebody sell them some sort of product or supplement.
Right. So TVIs, everything's been what they've seen and what they've.
Yeah. So what I've tried to do is just give them something where it's like, hey, if you want it, even though you've been told like, oh, there's no way you should ever do this, this, and this, but hey, how come that guy looks like that and he does that? Well, because maybe he knows something you don't, and so I'm trying to help them know all those things that maybe they don't know at this point.
Well, that's awesome, man. I'm congratulations on the book going as well as it is. And you're please don't take this the wrong way. You got it, man. You wrestler. How dare you be intelligent and
it's a huge hindrance. I did the podcast a few weeks ago, and we joked about how he said, like, the one thing holding you back in this business is that brain of yours.
That's it. That intelligence is going to get you in trouble.
Yeah, it already has.
No, it's not. No, you have a lot going on, man, and you're the right guy with Jeff and leading that stuff. And I know you're excited about it. And I always say I don't like the word passion because everybody uses it so freely, but your passion for the things you speak about and what you do is clear, and that's what draws me to you. So I wholeheartedly appreciate it, and congratulations on the book and all that stuff. And I wish you more. The issue is now you're going to have to write another one.
Yeah, well,
and then it's book signings.
Year and a half writing this one, and I was just like, oh man.
Yeah.
Finish it. Put more pictures in there. Do something. But yeah, now you're going book signing tours in between. So whatever your day off is done now.
That would be great. Anything to avoid more bumps on the bump card.
Yeah, I'm with that. Although I will admit I miss it because I hurt more without doing it. But that's a whole different podcast. So okay, Dallas fan, let's get to it. I'm half hot now.
Pretty hot. Don't get hot.
I feel like I'm gonna have to call what's her name later and tell her she set me up. So I say the same thing to you because you were, and I respectfully, you were such a young lady when I met you, and you're not, by no means are you old now, but you guys are like, you're both kids, and but Mickie, you're not a kid in this business. You've done it all. Your name speaks for itself, and your delivery with those, and I didn't do it justice to capture either one of you the way you dealt with the talent at GXW on that weekend, but your delivery, like, you've learned your craft. That's the best, simplest way I can say it. You've learned your craft, and to sit back and listen to you talk and relay the message you're relaying, I was blown away. And not that you weren't paying attention, but I've never had the opportunity before to sit back and listen to others. Mm-hmm. You know, you're always in the front, and when you get to sit back and listen to it, and you go, "Holy crap!" Like, that's it. And so, first, I say to you, I don't know when it happened, but and that's the humor in it. I don't know when it happened, but you're good.
Yes. No.
You're good in and out of the ring, and your delivery and the way you handle people and the way you talk to them is phenomenal. That's my take on the camp. But I look at you, and you're sitting next to Nick, and I say, when the hell do you find the time for it? Because you have wrestling, you have music, you have Donovan, and when we were at the camp, you had dates right after that. So you went from one thing to the next. So catch everybody up to what you're doing.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how. I think I just learned to juggle it. And I think because, I mean, as you know, like, the schedule of being on the road is so taxing. It's 2 days out of the year. So you get used to that daily grind. And when it becomes part of, like, where you're only doing a third of that, you're sitting back at home, you're just spinning wheels at home. You're just going, like, I need to be doing something. Like, this is not working, right? So, yeah, between all that, like, we have a bunch of music dates coming up. I mean, I just did the Bike Fest in Ocean City. We just got booked in Aruba at a casino, so we're going out there. Yeah. Yeah, so it's exciting. And then I just started doing this radio show for Heart Songs for Veterans, where all the proceeds go to veterans and instilling awareness. And the show's called Project Lips. It's like an internet radio show. Okay. So it's I've just been doing that for the past 2 months or so, and I'm just falling in love with the stories and the cause, and, like, it's amazing. So we work a lot with Walter Reed Hospital and the soldiers coming back and injured, and the rehabilitation group there, and a lot. It's really, really cool. So, awesome. Yeah, it's been really, I've learned so much, because we've gotten to do those Iraq tours, and that for me was a massive eye-opening experience. You have no idea. I think because we're here in America where it's safe and it's comfortable, and we can still sip our coffee out of our Dallas Cowboys cups, chill out, to go over there when I was over there, like, and to see, like, hundreds of cots lined in an old school building, where all the soldiers sleep. Whole experience and the security and the measures and it was just crazy, but it's certainly eye-opening. You go, like, that's a lot to sacrifice to go say, I'm going to go spend all that time over there. So all these guys that are coming back and that, have seen and seen things that have obviously had those effects from it. That's a lot of the stuff that we're working with that. Then wrestling, of course, as much as I can, because we love it and we're crazy and you can't.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things, and you always try to tell these young cats, is that the three of us have been doing this long enough to where life experiences come in, and you start, either you capitalize them, and I said this on some other interview, there's guys and girls who get in this business, do it, and once they're done in the ring, they move on and move out and do something else. And then there's that, I say, select group that stays in it and makes things happen from experiences.
Right.
It's always my thing is experiences. And now both of you are taking that experience and giving it back to the wrestling community, but then using your celebrity to do so much more.
Right. Well, I think too, and this is what I find to be true. A lot of people who, and like dreamed of it as a little kid, I would, I'm going to be a wrestler. And I love it because it was my dad and I's thing. That was our bonding experience. Like Nick was a wrestling fan when he was a kid. And I'm sure that you were too. Like it was just, I loved it. So I've been a fan of it. I'm still a wrestling fan. Yeah. So ultimately, like the one thing I remember, and I think it was really like a key point that I learned along the way. And someone said to me, like, you always want to leave the business better than when you came in. And so if you can help one person and that one person helps evolve the wrestling business and helps the business become better, then you've done something. Regardless of, what titles you've won and where you've been and all that, if you can help mold the future in some positive aspect, then you're giving back. And you always feel like you're doing that. And so that's
obvious in what you guys are doing in GXW. And then as you take this around the world, I all those kids left there with that thing in their eye of, that's it, we're done. I think if you would have told them, hey, we're extend this 2 more days, I think everybody would have stayed. Even
right.
From the kid who drove down from Canada, to the, from everybody else, because and to Nick's point earlier, that's what people are looking for in these seminars, because Q&As are great, and you get to spend and I think that's what those panels are for. And we've all been to the shows where they have the panel and the fans get to ask questions, but to have that time and to give it back. Steve Austin and I talked one time, and I always told him your job is to make the other person look better than they are. And I think that's the same point as what you just made, is how do you make them better? And then they're going to make someone better, and they're going to make someone better. And that was obvious for me. So get involved when keep following the Twitter and the Instagram and stuff. And the next seminar, jump on it, because these two, and again, I'd say it if they weren't on the show, but they're on the show, and they have a flair for this. They have a direction. They have their fingers on the business right now. I said in the experience, they're relevant and they're doing it now. Everybody should get involved in Superstar seminars and whatever else you got going. I'd be remiss if I didn't say how great it was to see the Hebners while we were there. They're big supporters of what's going on there. And again, Earl, that crazy bastard, just loves the business. And it was so much fun to be around him.
I mean, another perfect example of someone who just sleeps and breathes the business. I mean, he'll be cantankerous with us and bitch and moan about everything. You're like, that's it. This is going to be my last year. As long as I've known Earl, it's been his last year in the business.
Just a great. He was so emotional on the last day that it made me emotional. I never like to be emotional, but it was just what a great weekend of just wrestling and stuff like that. And then to sit back, and I want those kids, and everybody should know, and I'm sure the kids that you deal with all the time know, but the schedule and what's needed. And you guys are setting the tone, and not, to get off a plane from a European tour and come back and your day off, go right back to GXW, has to set the tone for those kids.
Yeah. It's hustle too, like if you're at this point, I'm doing everything I can, obviously, to help Global Force Wrestling get off the ground. And I want that to be a huge success, but it's not in a position right now where it has to be on a contract or anything like that. And it's certainly not in a position like I was with TNA. And honestly, at this point, if you're not under contract at WWE, but you intend to make your living from wrestling, like, you have to hustle. And it's like, and that's where
Those are those elements.
The other things, yeah, that's
Can't
it.
teach hustle.
Right. And
You
the other
know?
things that come out of the other things that outside of wrestling, but within the same kind of realm, like, trying to plug other stuff or doing like seminars or doing all that, doing those other things. Like it just comes down to hustle, because it's like, I don't want a real job.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I get to sit in the upstairs of my house and do this show, because I haven't worked in 28 years, so I don't want to start now.
Not a real job.
But those kids have to. I mean, they were a great group of guys, and a couple of them keep in contact with me via Facebook and things like that. And to watch them try to put those things into play that were talked about in those 2 days, and to see a love of it. Like the Corey Bush stands out to me. He's a big, husky kid, and he knows, while he may never reach that level, he wants to be in this business. So he wants to learn it from the ground up, and he wants to know the backstage, and he wants to know about all these things. And those are the kids that you gravitate to.
Yeah, but Corey had a really cool story, just because he didn't originally sign up for the camp. There was a girl that signed up, and she couldn't do the camp because she was going to Japan. So she pretty much traded her spot to Corey. Corey was afraid. He was like, "Are you sure that it's okay if I sign up? Like, I'm not, I'm not that in great shape." And I said, and I looked at his background. He's been wrestling, 10 years? I was like, "Of course you can sign up." Like, what? Yes, that's absolutely. And he was one of the guys that I had never really met him before, that I really gotten to know him. And he was the one that I really gravitated toward.
Yeah.
Throughout that whole experience. Like, he really touched my heart. You know what I mean?
Mick too. And you knew Mick because I guess he'd been to a couple of trials and stuff like that. It was a great example of, he's just a good human being, and, good attitude.
He's a lawyer. What does he want to be, a wrestler?
Yeah, I said it to him the first time I met him. Mick panned it. I'm like, "What do you do? You should be representing me. You shouldn't be trying to stand in the ring, go toe to toe with me."
I said, you could be a millionaire in one tryout. Just go around handing out business cards.
That's it. Or take, he could take a bad fall and represent himself. I always told him, I'm like, "Hey, one slip up." But we had Tessa Blanchard who was there, and that kid goes to everything and anything.
I love Tessa. I've worked with Tessa a bunch, and she's a great girl. And she's only been wrestling like a year and a half.
Yeah,
19 years old.
What, your dad's Tully Blanchard. What are you going to do?
But you guys brought that out. You guys brought that out in them, and it was a great experience for me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed just being around both of you, and then being around those kids, and that GXW is a great place off in the corner. It's off in the corner, but that's it. I say it looks like, because I wasn't there during their training, but that's a place where they're trying to they're trying to get it right.
Yeah.
And they're taking the time, and I know they run a shows out of there, and everybody, you cannot ever down hard work and determination. And from everybody I met there, and the people that you deal with, and I feel like everybody get involved. Everybody should be going to seminars, and until you're told no, for everybody out there on iTunes and all of you aspiring wrestlers, if you want to tweet questions, tweet those kinds of questions. I'll answer that stuff, all day long. Forget about what I think about who did what on this show, or how do I feel about this guy talking smack. Let's talk. That's what I loved about that camp and being with you guys, is we got to talk wrestling for a couple of days, and that was that was so everybody understands, we were there 10 and 12 hours.
Yeah. It was originally, what we say, we had originally 10 penciled it 10 to 4, and we were there from 10 until 8, 9 o'clock at night, almost 10 at night, both nights.
Yeah, it was a soft floor.
It was a soft.
It was a soft floor, but that's hats off to you guys and the way it was run, and again, how you deal with people. And you could have very easily have cut ties, go, "Hey man, that's great. Everybody who paid for this, we're done at 4:15. Let's clean up and go home. We'll see you tomorrow." But
I felt like it was so that energy was so infectious. You know, you brought your own energy, and I could tell that you were excited. We were excited. And there was that, I feel like that just grew through osmosis, and it made everyone in the camp excited, you know, and want to give and give and give. So everybody was pushing themselves from you all the way down to Corey, to Tessa, to, you know, Duran, everybody pushed themselves to the limits. You know,
for me, like, and I'm, you know, I'll say this, and I hope that everyone takes this on board, and you know, that this, I'm saying this just because it's true, but I'm sure that there were, even some of the guys who came probably had some reservations about your reputation and what they were going to go through, and, you know, what they may or may not experience. And to me, I think the thing I want to try and convey to anyone listening to this or watching this was that, though every single one of those people there, they worked their asses off.
Yes, they did.
Not because you made them, because you encouraged them and then drove them when the time was right. Like, there were periods, yes, when it was like the squats and the push-ups and the sit-ups and the conditioning, stuff like that. But there was no point, there was never a point where someone couldn't just say, all right, I'm out. Like, every single one of those people pushed themselves to the limit because they wanted to, because you made them want to, not because you made them, you know. And there was not a single one of those people, while they all walked away going like, geez, I worked hard and I figuratively got my ass kicked. Like, not a single one of those people were treated with anything but absolute respect, and with, you know, 100% encouragement to come away and be better at the business. Like,
yeah. Thank you for saying that. But they brought that out in me, and you guys brought that out, and that's what I took from it. I wanted everyone to leave there going, you should be going, you know, it's wrestling, so I cuss. You should, and I said it, you should be leaving there going, holy shit.
Yeah.
That was tough. But it was tough, and you made it. And it was tough, and it was tough as a group. And even some of the guys were talking about it, and they were so surprised at each other that they kept going. And it's only, to me, a camp or a seminar or wrestling on an everyday basis is only as tough as you make it. And if you can go into it knowing that there's certain expectations and this is what it is, then you have a better feel for what you, the person, wants to do. But that's my thing. The Bill DeMott Experience, and I said this to the Miami Herald, I think last week, is he says, what's your end game? And my end game is simply this: don't go by the tough enough guy. Don't go by the guy that when the red light is on, I'm that guy, because that's what I get paid to do. Go by the guy you meet. And that's why the Bill DeMott Experience, both the podcast and the YouTube channel. Come and let's spend time together. And we'll both look at each other and go, that was a serious camp, or that was a serious seminar. Yes, that was a serious couple of days we spent together. But if we leave there looking at each other with a smile going, man, let's do that again, then to me, that's what makes it all worthwhile. And I know that's what we had in Richmond. And I know everything you guys do and touch going forward with the seminars and everything you do is like that, because you two bring that out in people as well.
Well, we were hoping to do some more, you know, with you. And then I thought to do like a diva camp, and like,
oh yeah,
it's really, we're trying to aim it towards people who've had experience, that need that fine tuning, you know, that have been wrestling 2 or 3 years and have had tryouts and have had those experience and goes like, what am I doing wrong? And how can I fix it? Like, what are those things that I need to know that I obviously don't know yet? You know what I mean? To kind of,
it's necessary, because they'll come to a camp and that's it until their next camp. And sometimes you don't get invited back, no matter what company it is, or you know, whether you may not get invited back to Japan. So you have to keep honing that. And I think you guys have your finger on it, and it's the right idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
I mean, honestly, like I
mean, if you could fit it in, I mean, you guys got nothing going on like March 3rd of 2020.
we I think it was,
Volume 4.
we had like, yeah, we had we honestly had plans to be doing another one. We were trying to fit one in the UK when we were over there for the Global Force.
Right.
But then we ended up filling up our calendar with double shots after the thing, and then we're going to Amsterdam. Yeah,
love Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aruba and Amsterdam, it's not too bad. But you know, but honestly, like part of me, honestly, it's hard because as corny as this sounds, it's like it's hard. Like I haven't given it as much thought as we had prior to your camp, because we were like, that camp was so good that it was like, how do we top it? You know what I mean? Like it was such a great experience. It's almost like I don't know whether you think this. We haven't really talked about it, but part of me that doesn't almost. It's like I don't know where we go from there, because that one was so successful.
We want them to be more of like a higher end, because you can go to camps all day long,
right?
You know, different camps, whether it's out of school or whatever. But like I said before, it's not really a selective process on who they. We could have had 100 people there at least, even if we wanted to. Right. We had what, 20 people total, 15, 20 kids. Like that we kind of hand selected, but like and accepted them. You know, where depending on where they were, if we thought that they were actually going to benefit for the camp, and if they were ready for it, you know. So yeah, but to have it more of like that critique. So then hopefully it's more for the boys and the ladies that are like coming up and want to get that end goal. And that's actually their goal, because that's the place I came from. Like I took those. I did the Ricky Steamboat and the Ricky Morton, the Bobby Eaton camps, and any camp that I could do to help better myself to get to that end goal. And it may have taken me, 5 to 7 years to actually get there, but when I got there, it made it that much sweeter.
Yeah, there's not a lot of that around anymore. And there's not a lot of those minds aren't there anymore. And the guys, and you said Bobby Eaton, who I have the utmost love and respect for. I got to work with him for years, but there's no more Bobby Eatons. There's no more, while they're still with us, but they're just not one capable physically, but they're not out there, and they're not, lack of a better term, relevant to what's going on. So I think the pressure's on the both of you, because you started something. And I think when you do the next one, no matter who you pick, your energy is going to be there, because you started it that way. I think I went in with one mindset and just went off, because their energy was contagious, and you guys had just such the right, I don't know, format or whatever it was, but it was just organic. It just happened.
Place, honestly, Bill, like we had a vague idea of like how we wanted it to, but it exceeded our expectations, honestly. Like it went. It's a great facility, like that.
Yes, it is.
It is a really good facility. So we had that going for us, and
it's clean, it's spacious, it had a lot of tools, like the green, which we didn't even utilize all the stuff, like the green room and the camera equipment and stuff. But we had an idea in our head of how we wanted it to go, and we had hoped that it would, but obviously you can never be sure of it, one, until you meet the talent who are actually there.
Right.
Also, until that chemistry starts to develop between the trainers and the trainees, and it just all worked, and now it's provided us a good blueprint if we want to go forward and do more.
Yeah,
let's do that. No pressure. You got to do it. No pressure at all. I think that's what's missing.
Yeah,
is those kind of camps. They're nice, 20, 25 people. I mean, I've done camps where we've had 80 cats at the same time, so it turns into a factory. And this was more intimate, and there was a lot of downtime and discussion, and I always say, like, my term is get to know you time. And it was, I know they left there, just speaking, the two twins, the Hall brothers, are always sending me updated videos and things they're trying outside of wrestling now. They're trying to get into the entertainment part, and they're doing like these little shows in theaters and stuff. And it's awesome, because they took from that and realized what can work elsewhere.
Right.
So that was awesome. I'm just so happy we had that time. I'm glad you guys took the time with me today to do this. Again, I say this respectfully. Two of my on my top 10 list for sure, favorite people. Nick, I love your drive. I hope everybody gets a chance to sit and talk to you about just life. Wrestling to me is a small part of what we do, but both of you have such a great outlook and approach towards things, and have learned. You've both, hopefully this comes off the way I mean it. You have learned. Your time on the road has been spent wisely. You've learned life, and you have a lot to offer in and out of the wrestling ring. So I hope everyone goes and gets a version of that book, whether it's the hard copy, the ebook, whatever it is. And I hope everybody takes advantage of an opportunity to meet you. And if they have questions, I say to everybody on the Twitters and everything else, ask those questions, because these two young cats have a lot to offer. And then Mickie, on the flip side, the same thing. And you're just touching people because you have that way about you with your music, and now what you're doing, with this, the groups you're working with and everything. And I just wish you both the most success any two people could ever have. And I look forward to, I'm going to try to stay around for like 20 more years and see if I can't roll around with Donovan when the time is right.
Perfect.
All Billy talked about after that was, when are we seeing Coach Nick again? When are we seeing Coach Nick again?
He's the best.
He loved when you were rolling around with him on the mats. And to me, that's the measuring stick, right? One dad to another is how my kids react to people is how I gravitate. My boy thinks you're like the best.
At least someone does.
So Nick, plug the book for me again, and Mickie, plug everything you're doing for me again, real quick for everybody.
The Superstar Body. It's out now. It's real world techniques for achieving your goals. It's got some great, great input from guys like Kurt Angle and all kind of really top people and myself, and it's good for anyone who wants to achieve their own superstar body, whatever that body may be.
And everybody can click on that Amazon button on my page and go right to it and get that book.
Absolutely.
Mickie, hit me.
Thank you so much for having us on. We love you. And
give us your dates coming up music wise. Where you at?
Oh gosh, there's so many. The 28th, I'm in Middletown, New York. Then that's of November. October 10th, just a few days away, I'm going to be in Bush Park Campground in Virginia.
Awesome.
So, yeah, between that and juggling wrestling, you can find it all on mickiejames.com.
Anybody on the West Coast, please head to the Orleans Arena in Vegas on October 23rd for Global Force Wrestling Amped. It's the culmination of it's going to be the finals of all the title tournaments they're crowning. Like the first tag team titles, women's title, next gen, and heavyweight. So all.
Yeah, that global. I always try to keep up with everything that's going on. Give Jeff my best. I know Doc Gallows and all those cats are working with you guys as well. Is that right?
Yeah. The little trade going on with New Japan and stuff. So
you guys have a good crew of guys and some good minds going on there. I appreciate you both. I wish you nothing but the best. We'll talk soon. Everybody get on their Twitters, follow them, get to know these people more than what you just saw on television, because they're great. I appreciate you both. I'll talk to you really soon.
Thanks,
Bill.
Thanks, guys. Hey, that was this edition of the Bill DeMott Experience. I can't impress upon everybody enough to go follow Mickie and Nick on Twitter and Instagram. And if you get a chance, go to let me find my page here. I think that's it. Go to the Bill DeMott Experience on the YouTube channel. Check out training camp. Get a feel for what's going on, and keep your eyes out there for wrestling. Wrestling's a big deal. Go to the right camp, get clone the right people, and do the right thing. This is Bill DeMott. This is the Bill DeMott Experience. Do what you say what you mean what you do. I'm out.
Don't let mama regret. Give your life.